Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in today. This is our special edition, our post-election coverage. I have my regular superstar attorneys with me today. The legendary Milton Grimes, who represented Rodney King, attorney Vanita Banks, a superstar lawyer, one of the best lawyers in the country, and John Sweeney. But before we get started, a couple things that I need to address. First, very special thanks to all those folks down in Georgia who stood in line, who called your friends, who knocked on doors, who begged, pleaded, donated money. Thank you. Thank you. The people in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in particular, you showed up big. You voted. You stood in line. You mailed in those ballots. It's particular thing for all those folks that took the time to ask for mail-in ballots. We discovered that with this pandemic, there is a change in American democracy. We see that mail ballots actually do get counted, contrary to false information that may have been communicated at different times. Now, very briefly, before I get to the election, let me answer a couple of technical questions. You send these to me through various sources, but it had to do with the pandemic. As we reach over 120,000 sick Americans on a daily basis, nearly 240,000 deaths, one of the things that had emerged is a massive, massive amount of litigation. We're on the verge of having the largest amount of lawsuits in the history of America for any type of disaster ever. And it has to do first with the business interruption insurance, which is a type of coverage that's available when you to protect your income. And there's those claims that are pending. But the second claim is people that are contracting the virus, such as in nursing homes. And those cases are evolving. So, each day I get different opinion and they go in all type of ways, but I suspect during the second quarter of 2021, we'll give you a better idea as to how those successful those cases are. Some are getting settled, but they're moving forward at a rapid pace. Now, having said that, let's start off today.
Attorney Lee,
yes.
Lee, I wanted to just make a comment regarding the cases that are being filed against insurers all over the country, these business interruption claims that you referenced. As you said, cases are being filed at an enormous rate, and at least 1,250 cases from my research have been filed nationally, and they've been filed, as you stated, in both state and federal court. And this is a historic number of cases being filed each and every month. And over a third of these cases are being filed by restaurants and bars, and slightly less than a third of these cases are being filed as class actions against insurance companies, and a similar amount, about roughly a third of the cases, are being filed as bad faith claims. And so far, the nationwide trend has been in favor of insurance companies, and about 75% of these cases have resulted in dismissal of the policyholder's claim. But there are at least a couple of opinions over the last several weeks, one in New Jersey and one in North Carolina, that have found in favor of policyholders, ruling with respect to physical loss or physical damage is not required under New Jersey law. So we're going to be hearing a lot more about this litigation as we move forward across the country.
I have a question, Benita. I became aware of these cases in the beginning of December because several lawyers in Los Angeles filed those lawsuits for the interruption of their practice, that they weren't getting clients, they couldn't communicate with the clients, they couldn't handle the client's business, some well-known lawyers. And I was interested in following those, but I kind of dropped off in the last couple of months. Was there any information in your research regarding attorneys, especially that professional group, filing lawsuits for this?
I know that those types of lawsuits have been filed, but I'm not sure of where they are in the process. Attorney Lee, have you received any calls regarding attorney interruption insurance, interruption of their practices?
Okay, in a nutshell, yes, but these claims, very important, are based upon contractual rights. And the language in the policy controls the outcome in a lot of these cases. In other words, there's two types of basic coverage. There's named peril, where you specifically name the type of things that could be covered, such as, for example, if you live in Florida, you'd be concerned about hurricanes, right? And you live in California, you'd be concerned with fires. And so in other states, it may be other issues. So the insurance companies, because of the pandemic, Ebonic, one of the pandemics that hit many years ago, about 10 years ago, they altered a lot of their policies on this coverage. And so the net result is some of the plaintiffs are being shut out because the insurance company modified the policies to exclude pandemic coverage, believe it or not. And so most people didn't read the small print in their policies. In those cases, some of them, again, disposed of summarily against the insured, despite the fact they paid thousands of dollars in premium. Now, but those cases are working their way through the litigation process, and I'm part of one of the litigation groups, and I just see every day the cases go in different direction, and we'll know more by these cases in the first and second quarter of next year as they work their way through the court. Now, having said that, superstar lawyer John Sweeney just joined us. I've been having some technical difficulty. Let's start off today with a permanent election hold. You know, we're now in day 5 of this election, and we see what is occurring in Pennsylvania. Of course, those 20 electoral votes will give Joe Biden the electoral advantage. He need 273, he need 270, and he will be declared the president. The latest projection is that around noon today, this day, they're supposed to be releasing a big batch out of Philadelphia, which will give him beyond the 5% threshold for the recount, and then they should announce that he win Pennsylvania. So hopefully that happens sooner rather than later. But every broadcast give you a different time frame, so hopefully that occurs sometime.
Is that noon Eastern time?
Well, I'm not sure. They keep changing it. So, but I like to think, first of all, my good friends in California, California came up big. I see right now we have a 3 million vote plurality out there. Thank you, California folks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and you know, there's 55 big electoral votes, and they called California as soon as the poll closed.
Oh yeah, yeah. We live in a relative bubble out here of unreality because we don't see in the urban areas anyway, and in most of California, all the vitriol and the horrible Trumpism that you see in these red states, and in Indiana, you know, we don't have that, and so yeah, California, I'm proud of my home state.
John, don't tell that secret to them. We'll be inundated. Okay.
You're right, Milton. You know, every year when the Rose Bowl game used to come on TV, and all those Easterners who were shoveling snow saw 70-degree temperature, they all said, "That's where I want to live." Yeah, you're right. Shh, don't tell anybody, Milton. I'm sorry.
Nobody can afford to live out there now. Your real estate prices. Your real estate prices insane. Your real estate prices. I was looking at this house that was 2,500 square feet. It's selling for $5 million. I'm thinking that's insane.
Yeah, well, it all depends on what neighborhood it's in. You're absolutely right.
Hey, you can put a house on the freeway in LA and sell it for $5 million. I mean, I've never seen anything so crazy.
I'm sorry.
Attorney Banks, You're in Illinois. That came up big also. Thank you for the Illinois folks.
You are welcome. I had the honor of serving as a poll watcher on election day in Lake County, and there were no problems. It was a smooth operating process. 60% of voters in my precinct had voted early, so there were no problems at all.
Well, Vernita, I'd like to share with you and Nate and John, but I think you two were on when I declared that I wanted to vote in person because of the feeling that I experienced when Obama won driving through Compton. Alvin Pittman and I wanted to revisit that experience again. And anyway, some other dumb stuff I was thinking about. But my experience this time was not the same. I went over to Crenshaw High School, Sweeney, to vote at about 8:30. I was the only person there. I was the only person in line. I went up to the table and nobody was there, and someone yelled, "Hey, we have a customer, we have a customer." And the lady and, yes, sir. And I said, "I'm here to vote." She said, "Okay, just follow those footsteps," and followed those footsteps. They say, "Here, take this." And it was lonely. It wasn't the crowd, or it wasn't a group of people. I wasn't able to share and communicate and talk about the election. It was just anticlimactic. And I should have mailed in early or voted early or whatever, but it was flat. But we won. I hope we won.
Let me say this, Nathaniel. You and your show are really to be commended. Vanita, you are to be commended, because it was Vanita Banks who suggested that the topic of the day, the last few weeks running up to the election, should be on voter registration and getting out to vote. And let me tell you, if you don't think the black vote really turned this election around, you need to be educated. Because in 2016, when Trump got in, it was because we lost the so-called blue wall. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. We lost those states. They were flipped red. And then this time around, people got the African-American vote out in those 3 states, and they literally handed the state, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, to Biden. Wayne County in Detroit, Milwaukee and Kenosha in Wisconsin, and Pittsburgh, Philly, Pittsburgh, Allegheny County, and Philadelphia, and those areas, the greater Philadelphia area. That was the difference. That was the difference. And had we lost those 3, we would have been under Trump for another 4 years. It's absolutely incredible. And then of course, Georgia. Oh my goodness, what a pleasant surprise that was. You know, it's closer, but it's the black vote. The Stacey Abrams who started this tidal wave that could not be. Look at you brought it up on the map. Look at that. And all those blue areas, the greater Atlanta area, delivered the state of Georgia. Big surprise to Biden. It's a cherry on the Sunday, because we didn't really need Georgia. But what it does, it blows away Trump's argument. If we get 306 electoral votes, it blows away his argument that, had I won this state, I could have gotten to 270. No, he is. The way it's standing right now, we'll have 306 or 307 electoral votes, something like that. And of course, we have the popular vote by over 4 million. So this is, although not quite a landslide, but a referendum against this guy. And so it's a marvelous day. And Nathaniel and Vanita, what great foresight you guys to get the word out. And, you know, maybe just a few people within the listening range and viewing range of your show, Nathaniel, maybe those are the ones who told 10 more people, and they told 20 more people, and they told 40 more people. It was a collective effort. Congratulations.
Well, congratulations, everybody.
If I may, Nate, and my point was being that it appears as though African Americans did get out early. That was my point. Because the poll, I mean, the voting location was relatively slow.
Yeah, the difference that was dramatic was this mail-in voting. I was concerned about mail-in voting for one specific reason. That is that I felt that there would be a great amount of contestability of the mail-in ballots, particularly in the African-American community. And we see now in even Pennsylvania, a lot of those challenge votes are from Philadelphia, right? So as they get through the process, it looked like it's about 20 to 30,000 of those votes. Those are like 90% Biden, but they're challenged based upon whatever reason. And so that's what my concern was. We saw that in several other states, because in some states, the requirements required that you have a separate signature on the ballot. And so, but what I'm most proud of is the fact that we had what looks like going to be over 75 million Americans voted for change. And that number is still going up from the 74 million, because we saw California's up to about 70-some%, and that trending strong Biden. And I'm thinking we're gonna get 2 more million votes out of California by the time the final vote is cast. And so, having said that, the other part of this equation, and there's been a lot of commentary about this, and there's a lot of strong feelings, we know that. We have the largest amount of weapons bought in the history of America in the last several months. So, but what has come forth is the fact that there's a lot of vitriol, animosity. And so where do we go? Okay, now we know for certain now that Biden should pull this off sometime today. They should announce that he's the winner today because of Pennsylvania. What's next? Are we going to see Twitter attacks that promotes violence against the Democrats?
You know, I certainly hope not. But I hope that the emotions calm down as the weeks go on. It was a hard fought contest, and this is one of the most significant presidential elections probably in history. And both sides constituents had a lot to gain or lose depending on how you look at things. So I'm hoping that over the next several weeks, it's tampered down, the emotions, and we certainly have somebody in there, it looks like, and President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris, who are reasonable and who can calm things down. But here let me ask this question. I ask it of Vanita Banks because we all have level heads, but I don't think anybody has a more level head than Vanita Banks on this panel. So help me, Vanita, with this. I was always raised, and I'm sure, and Milton thinks a lot like me, and Nate also, that Caucasian people, I always look at them with a question mark over their head. Are they a racist? When I go into a store, when I sit next to somebody at a Laker game or a Dodger baseball game, and they're white, are they a racist? And so when you have 47% of the population voting for Trump, it really gives me concern. Now, with white people, I feel at this point, and maybe Vanita, you can help me with this. I feel that they are all, or at least half of them, are suspect racist, and they think like these Trump supporters, because they are. 47% are. And so it's horrible for me to have to say, you prove it to me that you're not a racist. 1 out of 2 people. Is anybody else having that feeling? Vanita, how can you help me with that? Should I feel that way?
John, it is clear that America is divided right down the middle. And there was some thinking that this election would be a landslide. I didn't think that. I felt that this election was going to come out exactly like it did, and that half of this nation, Trump's base, that they got out their vote as well, and in massive numbers. We've seen the largest election in the history of America, where 140 million people came out. And so what I'm trying to do as Vice President Biden and Kamala Harris is to bring calm. The fact that he did not declare victory yet, the fact that the networks are methodically ensuring that every vote is counted before they call this election. This is all an attempt to bring people together. And as the president said, he's going to be the president for all the people, whether you're racist or not, right? And so I try to not, and it can be challenging, I try not to be predisposed regarding people that I encounter. I sat in the polling place all day with a Trump supporter, and we talked about all kinds of things that were important to us. And I think that when you talk to people on a one-on-one basis, you find that we have more in common than we do than what is different. And so I am trying very, very hard to take one person at a time. And they actually will have to prove through their interaction with me that that is not the case, and that they're not operating in the best interest of our democracy.
Okay, let's take one caller. Producer, send one caller through. They want to join in on this conversation. Caller, you have a comment for us today.
Oh, good afternoon, Nate, and to your guest. I guess the lesson is don't write off the southern states, and get your people out and try to convince some more white people to vote for you. But what I want to talk about is the folks out in Los Angeles. I'm a Jackie Lacey supporter, and that was the prosecutor that just lost her race. I'd be interested to know from them. I know she had a hard time prosecuting cops, but I think George Gaston, the guy that beat Jackie Lacey out here in L.A. for the prosecutor, I think L.A. is getting ready to see a spike in crime. And that guy, I'm just so sorry that he won that election. And I'd like to hear from your friends out there in L.A. Real quickly what they thought about that election and why Jackie Lacey lost. I want to thank you for taking my call.
Well, I'd like to know that too. He want to know about the prosecutor race out in L.A. Gentlemen.
Go on, Milton, go.
Oh, I see. You talk first now. Okay, John.
We have a new president.
I supported Jackie Lacey when she first ran for office. In many aspects, I supported her, but she disappointed me during her 2 terms. In the
By the way, this is called the election for Biden.
We have a new president.
Oh my God.
What?
Just got called.
Just called.
Just call Pennsylvania for Biden.
Oh
All
my
right. All
As
right.
we speak.
All right.
Breaking news.
Great
It's-
news.
It's for real.
It's for real. Biden is now the president-elect.
Toast, guys.
My goodness.
Have a toast to the new president.
That is to the new president. Long live the king.
Okay.
This is a great day in America.
Yeah. God
The
damn.
king, the king is dead. Long live the king, as they said in Old England.
Now, I want you guys to explain this prosecutor race in LA. This is fascinating.
Yes.
Hey, my phone is jumping off the hook now. I'm gonna have to cut it all the way off. Sorry. Okay, so I voted and supported Miss Lacy 8 years ago, and she disappointed me. Disappointed me. I know that she does not prosecute cops. I know that they have given her millions of dollars. Every police union in Southern California, from San Diego, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, and LA County. You can look at the tab. They've given her $1.5 million, 2 million, $1,750,000. There, I have a case that the cops were fired. 5 cops in a city were fired for a shooting of a mother of 3 boys. The police department fired them. The case is over 5 years old. I have given her some of my investigation because her deputies has asked for it. He has not decided to prosecute that case yet. I'll go back to your guy in Marion County, your DA, who said 6 months. You don't get any additional facts, and the law doesn't change. So why can't she step up and prosecute these people? It's because she has some allegiance with them, clear and simple. I don't care what her excuses are. She's not prosecuted cases that clearly need to be prosecuted, in my opinion. That's the one area about her that I've been watching. So yes, I could not support her this term. And yes, I'm willing to give someone else a chance to do it. It hurt me because she's an African-American prosecutor, guys, but I'm looking at who's going to support fair justice for the lives that are taken here in LA. Speaking on what John Sweeney said earlier, I think, John, that the California voters disappointed me with their affirmative action initiative out here. I don't know that the country is ready to deal with what the Washington Supreme Court has dealt with, and that is there's been an injustice to a group of people ever since we've been here, and it's time to change. So I'm willing to go with anybody that's willing to change this injustice, especially towards African-American people, whether they're white, green, or black. That's my position, because I know what we all know the results of this injustice. So I think that with the outcome of that affirmative action election, believe it or not, we still got a lot of work to do in California. So that's what I have.
I agree, but to answer the caller's question, I'm with Milton. I'm willing to give Gascon, the DA-elect, a chance because I know Jackie Lacey, and I've contributed to her campaigns in the past. But plain and simple, she lost this election because she did not prosecute police officers for the killing of African Americans. And we are, as you know, the police shooting capital of the world. And she failed in that regard because she was no more than a puppet to all the police unions. Could have been prosecuting case out in rural Lancaster, which is the very far reaches of Los Angeles County, had she not done what they wanted her to do. And she sold out her race. As a matter of fact, I sent her a letter. About 4 or 5 years ago. And I started out the district attorney's office when Johnny Cochran was the assistant district attorney. And he hired me. I sent her, Jackie Lacey, a letter about 5 years ago, explained, because I'm older than Jackie Lacey, explaining her the history of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, how in the 1950s, 60s, and into the 70s, it was 94% white or 97% white and about 94% male. And how Johnny was asked by the DA at the time, a guy named John Vandy, to come in from a lucrative private practice to change the face of the office and hire more minorities and women. And he did that. And so I said, listen, you are standing on the shoulders of Johnny Cochran, one of the prime movers in police excessive force and civil rights litigation in the whole country. It is your duty, it is your fiduciary duty, given the power of your position, to do the right thing and start prosecuting some of these police officers, because that's the only way that it will deter them. It's not big settlements to the family. It's prosecuting police officers. Do you know, caller who just called in, even though I know her, we went to the same high school at a different time, Dorsey High School, but she never responded to my letter.
Never?
So I'm glad that she's gone, and she has a lot of time to think about it.
Well, like Dan Cameron in Kentucky, what they say, skin folks ain't kin folks. I mean, you know. Okay, let's take another caller. Caller, you have a producer, let the caller come through. You have a question or comment for us today?
Mr. Lee.
Yes, sir.
I was sitting up here listening to the program, and you got a great program going today. But I was just thinking that Trump could not have accomplished all of the things that he did unless the senators was along with him. And what we got here is the elective process. What we should start doing right now is registering as many people, and we should not wait till the election come up. We should try to register as many people as we possibly can and inform them if they move or get married, that they have to change, they have to go and redo that again, update the status before the election board. We got to be able to account for the fact that the what that guy named that failed to prosecute the policeman that murdered Breonna Taylor in Louisville.
Dan Cameron.
Yes.
We should not have McConnell and Lindsey Graham in charge of anybody representing anybody in the United States today. They should be out, along with Trump. And there should be all of the other ones that's coming up for election in the Senate should be out.
Well, so you know, Mr. Williams, I'm going to start a fund drive to donate money to those senatorial candidates down in Georgia. We're going to see can we raise a couple $1 million. We'll start next week, because when we looked at the vote total down there, there's something else that was more dramatic that most people miss about Georgia. The Libertarian candidate got over 100,000 votes. This left-wing person who said we want to legalize marijuana, these should be Democrats. So when you look at the Libertarian votes in Georgia, you realize that we have another 100,000 votes out there that we got to convince these people that are ultra-liberal to come into the fold of the Democratic Party to get these rascals out there down in Georgia, particularly in the Senate race in Georgia. In the Senate race in Georgia, it was shocking to me the number of people that voted for the Libertarian down there, who had 0% chance of winning, but the Libertarian candidate took away a significant amount of votes from the Democrats candidate running for Senate. So we got a lot of work to do down there to get control of the Senate. We're still in the fight down there, because if we get the 2 Georgia senators, we go 50-50, with the tiebreaker being Kamala Harris. Also, kudos to our special guest, Attorney Banks. That's her sorority sister, I think, that's going to be in the White House making history.
That's great. Congratulations.
Absolutely. And we are so very proud of her. I'm a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority Incorporated. I'm so proud of Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, who has made history. And we demonstrated through Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority and the Divine Nine, which we talked about last week. I mean, this was a very strategic, massive get out the vote campaign. And all of the messaging was coordinated and consistent. And so we educated voters. And this show, thank you again, Attorney Lee, for the honor of participating on your show and the emphasis that we've had over the last several weeks, because there's been nothing more important than talking about exercising our fundamental right to vote. So we saw organizations, including the National Bar Association and Transformative Justice and the Divine Nine sororities and fraternities and civic and social organizations, all coming together to educate voters. The Democrats learned a great lesson from 2016, where the outcome of the election was determined by a very few votes. In Michigan, it was less than 10,000 votes. In Pennsylvania, less than 40,000 votes. In Wisconsin, on about 20,000 votes. So every vote counts and every vote mattered. And we witnessed a free and fair election in our nation. It takes time. And however, we see that it really is nothing unusual that votes are counted after Election Day. I'm being asked here in Lake County to come down to the clerk's office to poll watch in certain races that are very tight. But it certainly is an honor to congratulate Vice President-elect Kamala Harris.
Well, we got our work cut out for a gentleman in California. Our next job is that we have to make sure Karen Bass is appointed by Gavin Newsom to be the senator in California. So we got to get to work on that starting today. Make no mistake about that, because we can't afford to lose any African Americans in the Senate.
Can I say this, Nate, please? 1 second. You know, we're here talking, and we had the pandemic that hit us. We got Trump, who's been hitting us all 4 years. Then we have this election that has brought things to light a little bit. Then we had George Floyd. This 2020 has been an epic year here for our history and for our future. It's like a big storm, or it's like what people say, don't wake that sleeping dog, you're gonna have problems. Or I remember the movie Tora, 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 when the Japanese were coming in and they were bombarding Pearl Harbor and they were cheering and they were celebrating. And the admiral who led the attack said he wasn't celebrating because he said, we have awoken a sleeping dog. We have awoken a sleeping giant. I don't describe us as giants and I don't describe us as dogs, but for some reason, it's still a feeling in me after going to couple of marches and protests here after the George Floyd incident, that there is an awakening in America as to all of us, many of us, having gotten complacent and sombered and, okay, I've made it, we can all make it and get together. Well, we see that's not true now, more so, and we need to continue to fight. So I think what has happened here in 2020 is that year where we've been awoken. And maybe we will now start discussing politics more. Maybe we will get out the vote more for every election and seize this opportunity to get power. So I just wanted to say that. That's my overall view of this situation.
You're absolutely right, Milton. I think Black people now, it's been demonstrated in this election, the power that we wield. We delivered the presidency to Biden. We saved the democracy with our votes in those swing states. There's no question about that. As soon as we realize that we spend trillions of dollars a year amongst our race, trading in goods, in food and tennis shoes and whatever services, as soon as we realize that and start recycling that through the Black community, we're going to really see how much economic power we have. We don't know. Now we know the political power we have. It's demonstrated in black and white. But as soon as we see how much economic power that we wield as a race, we are going to really, really come out of the forest that we've been wandering in for 400 years in this country.
Okay, let's take one more caller. Betty, hey, producer, let's take one more call, and then we'll go back to our guest. Hey, caller, you have a question for us today, or comment?
Yes. Thank you for taking my call. Appreciate everything that's been done during this election, all the strategic movements that have been made. I'd just like to ask a question. How do we prepare going forward for 2022? And I'll take the answer off the air because we want to keep the momentum going. So how do we prepare strategically for the next up and coming journey on this civic process and voting and all that good stuff? Thank you.
Well, that's a great question. Attorney Banks, we'll start with you because you're on top of this. Go ahead.
Well, I think first we have to deal with COVID-19, and I think that we have to address the fact that, that we have 100,000 cases a day, and I think that has to be our first priority. The African American community has been, and communities of color have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. And we comprise a large percentage of those deaths. So the first priority, I believe, and I think it's the first focus of President-elect Biden, will be to, as he stated, call all the governors across the nation and ask them what they need with respect to addressing and combating this virus and establishing a national strategy. And that strategy will include wearing masks to keep from shutting down. As we're seeing cases surge across the nation, we need to establish a national mandate. And I think it's very clear. We either have states begin to shut down again or people wear masks. And so that's the option. So I think the focus on COVID-19 and getting COVID-19 under control in our nation with testing and contact tracing, as well as listening to the science. And hopefully we'll have those daily meetings from the White House at some point, or not from the White House, but maybe from a transitional team, begin to speak to the American people.
I agree with everything you said, but the number one thing that we got to do right away, caller, we got to win those 2 Senate seats in Georgia. From a government apparatus standpoint, we have to win the Senate. In order to get meaningful legislation passed by this president, we got the most obstructionist senator leader in the history of American politics, Mitch McConnell. In order to get judicial candidates through the process, in order to get important legislation from voting rights, race relation in America, the right money for stimulus. One of the big mistakes that we made in this particular cycle is that when the Democrat came up with the idea to give a $1,200 check to every American, this was a Democrat idea. But guess who took credit for it? Donald Trump. And as a result, we had African Americans who I talked to say, the president gave me $1,200, sent me a letter. It was insulting. But a lot of people didn't realize that because the Senate was in the control of the Republican, it's going to be difficult to get meaningful legislation done. Remember when President Obama took office? Mitch McConnell said, the number one thing we got to do is make sure he's a one-term president.
Right.
So he did everything possible to adversely affect his administration. He fought through the process, but it's going to be an uphill battle. So we got to go out there and help and win Georgia those 2 Senate seats. Make no mistake about that, folks. That's going to be our #1 priority between now and January. The first week of January, the election, everybody's got to call their friends and neighbors. Got somebody in Georgia? We're going to chip in some money. We got to go out there and fight that fight and win that war down in Georgia now.
One of the, I'm back. I got kicked off. One of those candidates in this runoff is Raphael Warnock, and he is the pastor of Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.'s, the church that he was the pastor of.
So, what are the chances, do you think, Nathaniel, because you're big into Democratic Party politics, what are the chances of our 2 Democratic senator prospects of winning? Is it 60-40, 70-30, 50-50? What is it?
It's 50-50. We looked at the election result, and we now know that Georgia is now a purple state officially. But the thing that was unusual about Georgia, there's something very important. There's some left-leaning people running the Libertarian in Georgia. That's very important. Look at the number of votes that the Libertarian voters got in Georgia. And I thought that was critical. It gave me some additional insight. When you look at the amount of votes that the Libertarian candidates got in Georgia, the Libertarian candidate in the presidential race got 61,792 votes, right? That person ran on a platform that was left of left. Now think about that. So, but in the Senate race, it was double that amount. So if we were to get the Libertarian people to become, get off their viewpoint a little bit and say go more moderate, we get those votes, then we'll win Georgia by over 100,000 in both Senate races, and that's going to be critical. Now, we got to get the same turnout we got before, plus a little more. So we got to do, our motto going to be is that push, but push a little bit more this time and keep on pushing because we got to win Georgia, those 2 Senate seats. The control of the government is based upon winning this senator election. We go 50-50, we control the Senate, we get all this legislation, we got immigration issues, we got tax laws, we got health insurance, we got racial discrimination issue with the proliferation of judges now that don't think that if you call the N-word, that's bad. In other words, our legal system is going whack with this current viewpoint of many. So we got to get back to the system whereby we get judges that are highly qualified and that they also believe in equality in the pursuit of law and justice for everybody, and everybody's accountable. Just because you're rich and famous, you should not be above the law. But go ahead, Milton.
Absolutely, and the most important thing you said, Nathaniel, is that we have to get judges because the federal United States District Court judges are appointed by the president, but confirmed by the Senate. So, am I correct? So, we have to get the Senate back. There's no question about that because what Trump did was he stacked all these unqualified judges on the United States District Court, which makes law in their districts. And so we have to undo that harm. I heard the president say, well, it was Obama's fault that he left so many slots unfilled and I went in there and filled them. Well, the reason why I left them unfilled is because the Senate wouldn't confirm his candidates and his appointees. So that's extremely important. Hopefully also that we can maybe get more United States Supreme Court justices because as it stands right now, it is not a balanced court with 3 Trump appointees.
Yeah, Milton.
What's your question, Nathaniel?
You had to come and you raise your hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think that we can do all that we're saying we can do, guys. It looks overwhelming, but it doesn't look overwhelming anymore. We look at LeBron James, and when he spoke out about 3-4 years ago, the woman or some announcer on Fox News said, "Shut up and dribble." Now he's dribbling for social issues. You follow me? Mookie Betts, I understand, pulled off the greatest victory for the Dodgers in September the 28th, when the young man got killed in Milwaukee. He said, "I'm not playing today." Kershaw held hands with him, and they canceled that game that day in protest of the killing of an African-American man in Milwaukee on September the 28th. So we have the sleeping giant or the sleeping dog has been awoken, because in the years past, athletes would not come near these issues. They would not support anything about these issues in word or money or anything. Huh?
White athletes, yeah.
Black athletes. Wait. Black athletes either would not support, or white athletes are supporting them now. I hear what you're saying, John. In the past,
black athletes have always come forward.
In the past,
people like that.
All those athletes, yeah, there were a few, but on the whole, they were scared to get involved because it may mess with their money. Now they're coming out. I read this book, The Heritage, by a brother, I can't remember his name now, but it's titled The Heritage, about the history of African-American athletes and how the heritage being passed on the baton, making things available for the next person. But all I'm saying is this giant is waking up. We're waking up. And I don't worship athletes or actors or entertainers, but I'm saying that's one area that the government used and corporate America used to promote their oppression. Well, now that area is awoken, and they can't use them like they used to.
Attorney Sweden, 1 minute closing statement.
I'm sorry, what's that?
1 minute closing statement. We're getting ready to close it out.
Yeah, what a marvelous day. What a marvelous time that we live in, to have African Americans be the ones that made the change and handed the presidency to Joe Biden. And let's not forget that James Clyburn, representative of South Carolina, was the one who resurrected his campaign, because it was dead in the water before James Clyburn. And trust me, James Clyburn deserves a cabinet position of some sort. And it's just a marvelous day. And I don't think we know the danger that we avoided as African Americans by getting this guy out of the White House, because he was following a Nazi playbook to subvert every branch of the government, blend the lines between separation of the powers, because there was no separation of powers under Trump. The judicial became, the legislative became the executive. They were all the same, and that's extremely dangerous. There were no checks and balances, and that there was going to be a final solution as to the problem of African Americans. I believe, a la the Jewish situation in Europe in the 40s, that Hitler called the final solution, getting rid of them. I did not put it past him for him to have a final solution for African Americans in this country. He's gone. Good riddance. Move on.
He still got influence in that, though, John.
Well, we're getting out the U-Haul trucks, though. Okay, Attorney Banks.
I echo the comments regarding Representative James Clyburn. He is to be congratulated. He is, in fact, a president maker, and we owe him a really large debt of gratitude. Today is the end of the beginning, from my perspective. We celebrate today, but we need to get to work tomorrow. And now that we're awake, we've got to stay woke, as they would say. We now have a seat at the table. We've exercised our political power, and we can move forward to exercising our economic power, understand the African American policy plan that President-elect Biden has articulated in the areas of healthcare, economics, housing, police brutality. We have an opportunity to address systemically racist institutions from our banking system across the board. And I'm just really excited to get to work. And again, today is the end of the beginning. We've got to keep this going.
Well, I like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of the voters who stood in those lines, who took off from work, who sacrificed, who called their neighbors, called their friends. Thank you. For all the poll watchers that made sure that people had protected right to vote. Thank you. For all the people who counted ballots, who worked in the clerk's office, for volunteers, for free. Thank you. But right now, Georgia is on my mind. Folks,
I like that.
we'll go through the state of Georgia. So starting next week, I'm gonna start a Georgia Fund, and stay tuned to our website because Georgia is on my mind. We gotta go down there and win those 2 Senate seats. Thank you, my special guest. Thank you, our audience, and look forward to talk to you next week. Thank you, and may God bless you. And thank you for voting.
All right.
Thank you.
On my mind.
I love it.
Georgia.